Alright everybody, we've got another set of 12 cards we're going to take a look at, so without any further introduction, let's jump right into them. We've got Ras al Ghul. This is the common and the rare version. The leftmost card there is the rare version. We got a 6-cost mask character with a villain affiliation, a 1/4/4, 1/5/5, 2/6/6, and it says, while Ras al Ghul is active, when an opponent's non-villain character die is KO'd by combat damage, it goes to the used pile instead of the prep area. This is a decent control card for constructed. It's okay for draft, but I think it's a little too expensive to be able to get out there and use. In draft, it may not provide the utility that you might want from it because you're playing against villains more likely than you are in constructed. In constructed, this isn't that bad either, though for 6 energy, you kind of expect something a little more punchy. It does prevent your opponent from really pushing in the way they might want to, though, so you could put it on a control team, or it can act as a control piece, but it doesn't have the finishing properties that you'd expect from a high drop character. Overall, I'd give this a 2 in constructed and a 1 in draft. I don't think this is worth picking up in draft. It's just too expensive and hard to get to. Doesn't have enough impact, and there's a high likelihood that you'll be seeing villain teams anyway, so it's not going to really do much in that instance if you do see villain teams. Ras's common version is a different story altogether, though. It's a 5-cost mask character that says, while Ras al Ghul is active, opposing non-villain character dice get -1A. It also includes a handy little mask global that says target character loses villain affiliation until the end of the turn, which means you can apply that to one of your opponent's villain dice, and then it loses 1 attack. Ras's stat line for 5 energy is much more viable than his 6 energy rare version, and then add in the fact that he has a decent static debuff ability and a global that can activate it on your opponent, and you have a decent villain option. I don't foresee it making a spot on a team in constructed, as its effect is still a little weak for its cost, but it might make a team in draft. I'd give this a 2 in constructed and a 3 in draft. Moving on to the uncommon Batarang. This is a 3-cost bolt action die that says deal 1 damage to target character die for each of your Batman character dice in the field zone. It's got that boomerang ability that lets you re-roll it after you use it, and if it comes up as a burst face, you can add it to your prep rather than it going to your used pile. This has some serious benefit over the common variant of being able to target any character die, and it would be relatively easy to deal about 3 damage with this card, seeing as you can easily get 3 Batman affiliated characters in the field zone at the same time pretty early on, and also considering that there are a lot of 2-cost Bat affiliated characters being released in this set, I think the boomerang effect helps this card even more, making the purchase cost of 3 a bit more manageable. I go back and forth on whether or not the purchase cost of this die is too expensive to make this more of a 2 rather than a 3, but I'll go with 3 for constructed and 3 for draft for this card. It just feels pretty good overall. It may end up being too slow and being a 2. It may end up staying right where it is as a 3, middle of the road card. Only time will tell. Next up we have Batgirl, the common version. She's a 2-cost fist character with the Bat affiliation. It says, while a non-Batgirl Batman affiliated character die is active, Batgirl gets +1/+1. In draft, this is essentially a 2 energy 3/2, 3/3, or 4/4, which is really good. In constructed, this is essentially a 3/2, 3/3, or 4/4, which is still pretty good because of that affiliation. This could replace Robin on some Bat family teams by virtue of just being a 2-drop that has a good stat line. You can get multiple out of these much easier than you could with the 3-cost or 4-cost Robin dice, and they pose a significant threat with their stats alone. Well, maybe not significant, but they pose a decent threat. This card is great in both formats, particularly in draft where I feel like it is this set's justice. I would give this card a 4 in constructed and a 5 in draft. I think we'll see this card a lot. Alright, next up we've got Bane's uncommon and rare variants. His uncommon card is a 6-cost fist character with the villain affiliation. He's got a 1/4/4, a 1/5/5, and a 2/7/7 stat line, and it says, when Bane attacks, KO target Batman character die and deal 1 damage to its controller. Interesting side note about this card, if you have a Batman character die out on the field and your opponent does not, then it looks like you are taking 1 damage and getting that KO'd, as it doesn't say you may, it says you must, essentially. Overall, the 6-cost has some good stat lines on 2 of the 3 sides. The 4/4 side is poor, but the 7/7 side makes up for it. The Win Attacks ability is great in draft and almost pointless in Unlimited unless the Bat family team kind of takes over the meta, in which case it has some usefulness. This card would be good in draft if you can buy it for 6, but the ability is only targeting Bat character dice, makes it a little limited in usefulness in constructed. I'd say this is a 1-star card in constructed and a 3-star card in draft. Bane's rare version is also a 6-cost fist character, and it says, whenever your opponent draws 1 or more Bat character dice, spin this die up 1 level and it gains +3 +3/+3 until the end of the turn. So the stats get better on the rare version with its ability, but this ability itself is awkward as it triggers on your opponent's turn. Getting a 3/3 buff on a 7/7 side feels really redundant, as whatever you're blocking with that 7/7 Bane is going to get KO'd just the same as it would against a 10/10 Bane, so the buff really doesn't do much here to help that. Maybe on its 4/4 side it makes it a little better. If I had a choice between the uncommon and the rare variant, I would always lean towards the uncommon version, as you can take advantage of the ability on your own turn. I think this is a 1-star in Constructed and a 2-star in Draft. Okay, next up we have a new face to Dice Masters. This is Big Barda. She is a new Guardian. She's a 5-cost Fist character with a 1/3/3, 1/4/4, and 2/6/6 stat line, and an ability that says while she is active, other new Guardian character dice get +2/+2. So she's got a good standard stat line for a 5-cost character, and if you're able to grab multiple new Guardians in the draft, this card is crazy good. A buffing ability on a 5-cost, which is manageable to purchase in a draft, is good. A 2/2 buffing ability is great. This probably won't see play in Modern, as there are only a handful of new Guardians, and they all come from this set. So I'd give this a 2 in Constructed, but I think this is a 4 in Draft. If you can get this card plus some new Guardians, you're going to be able to do really well in Draft. There's just built-in synergy there, and if you can take advantage of that, then you're going to be winning more games than the people who don't. We also have Bat Signal. It's the common version, 2-cost shield action die that has continuous. It says whenever you could use a global ability, you can send this die to the used pile to search your bag for a Batman die and roll it. It's also got those burst face, flip target character card you control abilities. I really want to like this card in Constructed and Draft. I think it could snag a spot on a Bat Family team as a guaranteed way of grabbing Batman if it slips into the bag. Add in the burst ability that could or could not be good based on how the flip mechanic works in this set. And this could be a great card in Constructed. Time and experimentation will tell if this will stick on one of those Bat teams, but it will definitely get tried. So you'll see this as probably as a 2 in Constructed and a 3 in Draft if you can get a Batman. Here we have the uncommon Commissioner Gordon, who's a 4-cost Fist character with that Bat affiliation. He's also still got that ally keyword and says, while Commissioner Gordon is active, the first time you draw a Batman die each turn, draw an extra die. I'd say this card is better than the common in Draft format if you can get a Batman to show up in your starting hand or in one of the hands that you see. Maybe it gets passed to you and you can draft it. Otherwise, the common's ability is more flexible. Still, a 4-cost ally is pretty good for Constructed, but I don't see Batman making it onto a flying sidekick team, so I'd probably give this a 1 in Constructed and a 3 in Draft if you can get Batman. Next is Big Barda's uncommon version. It's another 5-cost Fist character, and it says while Big Barda is active, new Guardian character dice cannot be damaged by villain character dice or action dice. I think I'd always prefer a 2/2 buff for my new Guardians over a can't be damaged ability. This one provides some staying power versus villains, while the other provides fast threats versus everything. I think overall I'd take the fast threats versus everything versus some protection against just villains and action dice. It's not a bad ability though, and in Draft it seems like this could be good or even great, protecting against some of those action dice that deal damage. I'd give this a 1 in Constructed just because I think everyone would take the 2/2 buff over the protection here, and I'd give this a 3 in Draft. Okay, the last 2 set of cards that we're going to look at include Robin, the rare version. This is a 4-cost mask character with the Batman affiliation. It's got the ally keyword. It has common ground, which is a new keyword as well. It says whenever Robin attacks with a villain character die, you gain 1 life. The stat line's a 2/2, an 0/3/2, and a 2/4/3. It's kind of weird distribution on the fielding cost there, but kind of interesting. This is another 4-cost ally, which I really like, and this has got a good attack stat compared to the body that Commissioner Gordon has. I think WizKids did a good job of adjusting that stat line to the 4-cost because normally 4-cost characters are more statted up than this is, but that would be insane on a flying sidekick team, so I think they adjusted it rightly. It reminds me of what they did for adventurers and giving them the experience keyword in D&D sets. I think its common ground ability is cute, but not the most effective game-changing ability, unless there are some new cards in this set that buff allies or sidekicks. I think this is not really worth grabbing in Draft. It definitely could see play on a sidekick team though, so I'd give this a 3 in Constructed and 1 in Draft. That is, of course, unless there are some sidekick buffing cards within this set, in which case this could bump up significantly within Draft. And finally, rounding out this group of cards that we are looking at today, we have the uncommon Ras al Ghul, another 6-cost mask character that says, while Ras al Ghul is active, your opponent may not declare non-villain character dice as attackers unless they pay 1 energy per die. And of course, it's got that awesome global that says, pay a mask, target character loses villain affiliation until the end of the turn. Now see, this right here is what a 6-cost character should do. This is the ability that belongs on a 6-cost high-priced character. This is a really cool control piece for Constructed and for Draft, of course, if you can get to it in Draft. This ability is definitely worth the 6 purchase cost in both Constructed and Draft, especially when you can pay a mask and drop the villain affiliation on your opponent's characters. It's a bit more difficult to get to the 6 in Draft, obviously, so it takes a hit on the quality there, but this is totally worth running in Constructed. I'd give this a 4 in Constructed and a 3 in Draft. All right, everybody, so those are the second set of 12 cards that we have looked at from this new Batman set. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Tell me which ones you agree with, which ones you disagree with my assessment. Tell me what I got wrong, what I got right. Thanks for watching, as always, and you guys have a good one.